Michael's exclusive interview with Governor Tim Walz. Michael, you sat down with him in his home state of Minnesota.
Yes, George, I did sit down with Governor Tim Walz, and we covered a lot of ground.
Damn, bro, what did you guys talk about? You look distraught.
At the top of the voters' minds, the economy, the comments that he's made about his life that turned out to be untrue or possibly misleading, and concerns that this election might be disrupted. But I started off by asking him what he would have done differently from President Biden.
Vice President Harris was asked this week on The View if she would have done anything differently than President Biden with President Biden that he has done in the past 4 years. And she said, quote, "There is not a thing that comes to mind." And she later said she would have a Republican in her cabinet.
Yeah.
And when it comes to President Biden and the presidency, would you or do you see anything that you would have done differently?
Yeah, and look, as a governor, I was asked to be governor of this state when Donald Trump was president and when Joe Biden was there. And I watched Donald Trump dismiss the COVID pandemic. I watched him drive an economy into the ground. And I watched Joe Biden and Kamala Harris pick those pieces up. And I think for all of us, we make decisions, we reanalyze afterwards. I think the thing that drew me to this ticket, and I think what the vice president's talking about, is that her values on these hasn't changed. They have been working for the middle class. They've been doing all they can to make sure prices come down. They're protecting reproductive care.
So it makes me want to ask you, do you think that Biden's done everything right?
Well, look, I don't know if any of us do everything right, but I can tell you he's done everything in the best interest of the American public. He's listened to what the public did. He's asked for answers, and I think, and reevaluated afterwards. And I think if your values and the judgments you're making and the ethical decisions you're making, he's done that. And I, again, have seen the difference that it made, especially during the COVID pandemic.
No, totally,
dude. Leadership.
Biden famously always is like, "Hey guys, do you want maximum genocide or like a step below maximum genocide?" And then people are like, "We don't want no genocide. How about that?" And he's like, just kidding, Jack. We're doing permanent genocide in the third world. Why? Biden is so responsive to voter pressure, dude, that it took Nancy Pelosi being like, "I'm going to assassinate you," for him to be like, "All right, I'll drop, I guess." Mr. Responsive, they say. Mr. Responsive to the voter demands that's how I would that's how I would recall the Biden administration. Only good thing this motherfucker did was, aside from the agencies, is pulling out of Afghanistan. And even then, they're so deeply ashamed of that good thing that they did that they let the media dominate them for months over it. Gross. So sad. Is Walz a media sub? I think Walz is gone. I think they captured him and they cloned him in a facility. And this is the clone Walz speaking. Every time he opens his mouth in these interviews post DNC, that's what I think.
Versus someone who's incredibly self-centered.
I want to go back to something you said on Tuesday. You said, "I think all of us know the Electoral College needs to go." But the campaign came out later that night, and they said that's not their stance.
Yeah. Well, it's not the campaign's position. And the point I'm trying to make is that there's folks that feel every vote must count in every state. And I think some of folks feel that's not the case. Our campaign does that. And the point I'm saying is I'm in 5 states in 2 days.
Bro, he's like, that's like the real Walz coming out. And he's like, ugh! And then they just hit him with the pro-Israel stroke gun again. Like he almost came out for a second. The real Walz almost came out and they were like, "We'll use the stroke gun on you. We'll use the pro-Israel stroke gun that we used on Fetterman. You shut the fuck up about the Electoral College. We like it."
We're out there making the case that the campaign's position is clear, that that's not their position. Their position and my position is to make sure that everybody understands their vote, no matter what state they're in, matters.
So that's something that you and Vice President Harris disagree on?
I have spoken about it in the past, that she's been very clear on this, and the campaign, and my position is the campaign's position.
And let's talk about the economy. That is the top issue for voters out there. 74% of voters said the past year they've had to cut back on groceries because of the rising costs, of course. And a lot of those voters, they're concerned that they cast their vote for Kamala Harris, but she's responsible for that. Yeah. So how do you reach those voters? What do you say to those voters who may blame her for the economy right now?
Yeah, folks in the middle. Well, we talk to them about what are the policies that are going to make a difference. And we see some of the data, but data doesn't impact people in their daily lives. Going to the grocery store and you see false information, whether it's bird flu impacting eggs. But the reality for most people is if those costs are up, they want to know what you're going to do about it. I think that's why she's focusing on making sure whether it's home ownership more affordable, tax cuts for the middle class, and let's just be candid about this. This price gouging piece and owning it when I said, look, I was there in August of '89. And I think what you see here, you saw it in Minnesota. I've been elected 8 times here. These things have been very public for folks here. They see the results of things that we pass. We see a state that's a top 5 state for business. We see 3rd best state, top 3 state for raising a child, and we've got the best health care. And I think the policies, whether it be dealing with China and understanding China's human rights record, what you can be certain there is that Kamala Harris and I aren't going to, pick dictators on speed dial. See, Xi Jinping is doing a good job during COVID, as Donald Trump said, and I think those lessons learned over a lifetime of being very public, whether it's in the classroom or being elected.
Well, but if
Yeah, he did do a good job during COVID. What? Did Donald Trump even say Xi Jinping is doing a good job during COVID? Because that would be a truthful statement. Demonstrably a better job than we did.
it's one of the things with trust. So there are going to be some people who say, we can't trust him to even tell the truth about himself.
Yeah.
What do you say to them?
Well, I said they know who I am. I know who I am. I know the work that I've done. I know that things get spun in a political environment. But I think what they see is, if they want to compare that talking about immigration policy.
Dude, this stuff is f***ing hilarious. This is one of the biggest media hack jobs of all time. The idea that Tim Walz is a serial liar. Why? Because we found 2 different speeches where, he exaggerated his involvement. One of them is a misspeak anyway, and the other one is the classic lie that people constantly tell. If you're in 1989 during Tiananmen Square, if you're in China, you're gonna lie and say you were there. Okay, you were there at the massacre or whatever, right?
I was in Hong Kong on June 4th, 1989, when, of course, Tiananmen Square happened.
The opportunity to be in a Chinese high school at that critical time seemed to me to be really important, and it was a very interesting summer, to say the least.
But the truth is, he was in Nebraska.
Fake being mad at those 2 things when Donald Trump is running for president, and there are less moments where Trump is honest than telling a lie, is so nutty. This is the media trying to do this thing that they always do, which is overcorrect in order to appear impartial. Well, this guy lies too. See, we're after him. And it's funny because the Republicans don't give a shit. They're still going to call you lying mainstream news. You're out of your mind. No voter cares about this shit, no matter how hard the media tries to hit this point. Very, very stupid. American voters care about what's in front of them. The 3-minute ad break at the top of the
policy or seeing the things that Donald Trump would say. I think there's a big difference than missing a date when you're there and, again, spinning something for a political reason. I'm very clear of who I've been. I'm very proud of 24 years of doing that work, and I think going to Congress and working for veterans, they want to see it and make the difference, look a little different. I think people in Minnesota, my students, the folks I've worked with, members of Congress, they know who I am, and they know the policies we put in place have made an impact.
And Vice President Harris said that she told you to be a little bit more careful on how you say things.
Well, I did it, even the other day of just speaking passionately about these gun violence situations and meeting with these survivors. I've sat in the room with the Sandy Hook folks, a friend with...
Be careful. He's a child. This shit pisses me off, bro. It's funny because this didn't want to do this at all. I don't think he ever had higher office aspirations like this. And now he has to look like a goddamn cuck every day of the week. Now you have to sit there and look servile for a dying campaign.
David Hogg, who's been an activist on this, people know in that, and then that gets spun in that, well, he didn't say something true. It was very clear that I was talking about these veterans, very clear that I wear, I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I do think in these positions, whether it be governor or being vice president of the United States, you do need to be careful. You do need to be a little more thoughtful on it. And I think what you see is as someone who's been in classrooms a lot, I've been around coaching a lot, I speak passionately, and I...
Bro, just fucking flip the script. What's wrong with you? What are you, a donkey? Be like, what are you talking about, dude? Yeah, okay, I misspoke twice. Donald Trump is not misspeaking when he says immigrants are eating cats and dogs. He's not misspeaking when he says immigrants are ruining the blood of the American nation. He's not misspeaking when he lies about undocumented migrants killing 100,000 Americans every year. That's deliberately a lie that he tells. Really? We're going to have a conversation about whether or not I saw the Tiananmen Square in 1989? What the fuck are you talking about? I was a goddamn congressperson and a goddamn governor that was very successful. What the f are you talking about, dude? Be for f real. There is not a single issue you can point to Tim Walz on that the Republican Party doesn't do tenfold. What the f? This shit pisses me off, dude.
I think doing that, you need to combine the two, and I think that's what she's referring to.
And you spent years as a high school defensive coordinator.
Yes.
Coach, getting the guys together and out there on that field, and you credit that experience as, you say that's something that makes you uniquely positioned to help America go where you feel like it should go. How does that make you uniquely qualified for that?
Well, I think it's about building teams, about bringing diverse folks in, finding where their skills work. I feel like I'm on a championship team with Vice President Harris, but it's that idea of molding, shaping, providing guidance, but understanding that you're just a piece of it. The players got to play. I always said you've got to put them in a position to be successful. And I think where you see these positions, whether it's governor or vice president, you got to put the American people in a position to be successful, and they'll do it. They'll do it.
And when I asked Governor Walz how he and VP Harris were doing so far in this election, he said he knew it was going to be close and that you don't just hope to win on that day, you plan to win, George.
All right. Okay, Michael, thanks very much. Good job. And this Sunday and this week, Chief Global Affairs anchor Martha Raddatz interviews Don